everyone, it's Dr. Lisa Sulsenti, and welcome to my podcast. And today's part 2 of the 3 stages of healing. And I wanted you to go back to part 1 if you want for you to really understand stage 1, because that's what that one was about. I dove deep into that. I'll just review it right now, but I want you to understand there's a part 1 to this one, and it's talking about my stage 1. Today we're going to be talking about the next stages. So stage 1 was about repairing and restoring a leaky gut. And I talk about my program, the Kind Gut program, and what it focuses on. It does combine stage 1 and stage 2, but I talk about in the first part is how important stage 1 is. I honestly feel professionally that it's very difficult, and it's actually, it's counterproductive to actually get into like stage 2 or stage 3 without having done stage 1, which is why when you work with me, I will dive deep into your medical history and your symptoms and your problems and your struggles and make sure that you've accomplished stage 1. If you haven't, that's where we start. We start right there. So make sure that you listen to the part 1 of this series so you understand what repairing and restoring a leaky gut is all about. And I'm going to just summarize it right now so you understand why stage 2 and stage 3 are set up the way they are. Stage 1 is about getting the gut wall to work properly. And to summarize it very quickly, it has to work. It has to work correctly. And when it works correctly, it will absorb the micronutrients that you need in order for your organs and your systems of your body to work properly. A lot of our symptoms and our health problems are coming from systems and organs not working properly, right? I call them broken. I call them imbalanced, deficient, messed up, whatever word you want to use. But in order to fix some of these illnesses and these symptoms and these diseases you have to what we call reverse engineer. You got to go back to what is going on. Why? What's broken? What's not working? What's deficient? And so we want to start off with stage 1, which is repairing and restoring a gut wall that doesn't work properly. When it doesn't work properly, it doesn't absorb the nutrients that the body, these systems need to work, to function properly. And what it does do is it lets some of the bad stuff out. It's going to let things that shouldn't be in the bloodstream, that should not be floating around the body, the bad things get out and the good things get pooped out. And that's wrong. That's where it all occurs. What we want is we want the gut wall to absorb the good things and poop out the bad things. And I talked about that. I talked about estrogen. Cholesterol is actually another one, and how important it is for the gut wall to be able to remove excess things and or absorb things you need. So that's what that's all about. Please go there. Now let's move into stage 2, which I did touch upon in part 1, because in my Kind Gut program, I really work on stage 1 and stage 2 with people. And then after that, if people want to go further, we'll do stage 3. And sometimes people get to skip stage 2. It depends. But in stage 1, I really combined and stage 1 and 2 together. But stage 2 is really about removing opportunistic things that could be in the body. Now, some people call them co-infections. I don't love that word because some of these aren't actual infections. And this is where it gets very confusing on social media. And I touched upon that very lightly on part 1 because I wanted you to understand how I understand your frustration. I'm on social media. There are great supplements out there. There are great programs out there. And a lot of people that are doing this mean well. But when I listen to it, I'm like, yikes. Don't think you should start removing parasites until you made sure the gut and the liver are detoxifying and that you make sure they're working properly, which is in part of stage 1. I forgot about the liver, but that's why you need to listen to part 1 because I get into all that. Part 1 is getting the liver and the gut to work properly. So you can move into stage 2, which is clearing out these opportunistic things. And so we do in the Kind Gut program reveal these opportunistic things, these causes, these problems within the gut. We're looking in the Kind Gut program. We're not looking outside the gut. We're looking in the gut. and for opportunistic things. In stage 2, we're going to reflect on those opportunistic things in the gut, but we might go outside the gut and look at, okay, are there any opportunistic things going on in the body? So are there other things outside the gut in the bloodstream, for example, or are there things going on that we need to look about? So let's step back a second and think about what are opportunistic things. Like, what are you talking about, Dr. Lisa? What does it even mean? So in detoxification, that occurs primarily in the liver, but also the gut. And I talked about that in part 1, but I need you to understand these in the liver, it needs vitamins, it needs minerals, it needs amino acids. The liver needs certain things in order to detoxify and get rid of things that are opportunistic or what people call co-infections. But again, I don't love that word. So if you're trying to remove heavy metals, you need the vitamins in order for the liver to do it. You need the gut wall to work properly in order to do it. So you don't want to really start this whole phase if you haven't gotten the liver and the gut to work properly. Do you understand how this could go sideways very quickly? And you also want to do it correctly. That's the second half of this phase. You want to do it when the liver and the gut are healthy and we got them working well and they can detoxify well. And then you want to make sure you do it correctly. And that's another thing about social media where I understand your frustration, because you're like, well, they said to do it this way, and they come in and I'm like, I tried it, but it didn't work. And I'm like, oh, you missed this one step. So with heavy metals, there's a certain way to do it. With parasites, there's a certain way to do it. With bacteria, there's a certain way to do it. With yeast, there's a certain way to do it. And I want to say very strongly here, you don't do all these at one time. You also will overload the liver, and this could go sideways. I've worked with C. diff. I've worked with heavy metals. I've worked with bacteria problems, yeast problems. I mean, I've worked with yeast at such a crazy level that this is something that you want to move slowly with the patient and make sure they don't get more sick. There's die-offs, there's all these problems. And if you're getting a negative reaction, you might be doing it wrong, or maybe you're going too hard at it, or you haven't done stage 1. You haven't gotten the liver and the gut to function properly in order to handle stage 2. So it's really important. So my Kind Gut program puts stage 1 and stage 2 together. We work on that. That's kind of what it's for. So you have opportunistic things. What does that mean? So this is really confusing for people, but the basic gist of this is that the body is meant to live harmonious with some of these things. The body is also meant to be able to handle and eliminate some of these things. And that's the key in detoxification. You have to remember that. Because in the medical world, we're raised, here's a symptom, remove it. Here's a problem, remove it. Here's a dysfunctional organ, remove it. That's not really what functional medicine is about. Functional medicine is about the body can heal itself and the body can handle opportunistic things. It should. And if it's not, you have to ask why. And that's why stage 1 is really, really important. Something's wrong with stage 1. So you have to go into stage 2 thinking, all right, are we ready for this? Why isn't the body handling this? Why does this person have heavy metals? And the best example I can give you, because I've been doing this for such a long time, and it's fascinating because you really learn the most through your clinic, your clinical experience. That's the most. You could read as many studies as you want. You could read as many books as you want. You could be on Instagram and try as many things as you want. You can take as many webinars as you want. You could have as many certifications. I've got a bunch. You really learn it clinically working with the patients. And what I find fascinating is it's a twofold. I learned so much by watching a patient overcome these, doing some lab testings and seeing the before and the afters, and just seeing what works and what doesn't work. And then consistently seeing that pattern through patient after patient after patient after patient. So for example, if I see someone have, a lot of symptoms of candida, and let's say I even test them and I confirm they have candida, and then I do a protocol for candida, and they just do really, really well, which of course I have to heal the gut first, by the way. We just have to repair and restore the leaky gut. And I do the program for them, and I do it over and over and over and over again in the patients with the same type of story, and I see really good results. That's when I'm like, wow, that works. That's how I learn things work. you, as I said, you can take as many seminars as you want. You can listen to as many webinars. You can get as many certifications as you want. You could read as many books as you want. And again, you can go on social media and try as much as you want. But when you see it work over and over and over again in a systematic way in the office, you're like, wow, that works. So this is where I come from. I come from a clinical trial, test and trial that I'm sharing with you. So when you see this in the patient, you're like, wow. And so when you're looking at opportunistic things, what I find super interesting is when the other fold, I said this was twofold. The other fold is when I'm looking at these things, the patients themselves or the parents, because if I'm dealing with children, the mothers, they teach me so much. I have learned so much from the mothers that have children with autism or autism spectrum disorders or Asperger's or whatever you want to diagnose it as, because the name has changed over time. And I was blessed with a child with Asperger's. I have 3 children with on the spectrum, and I have one son that was in special ed. So I got into this world, and then we have a lot of friends, and patients started coming to me. And so I had have a practice that, I have a lot of kids in this scenario. And so when, let's say heavy metals, let's use this one as an example, but there's other examples, because this is the crazy thing. There's no exact, they're not all the same. So they don't all have X, Y, and Z, So this is where it gets hard, where you can't use the same protocol on all of them because they don't all have the same thing. This is something you need to learn about detoxification, because this is what I see that can be a reason why they get worse, or they're not getting results, or it could go sideways. If, for example, a mom comes in and has 2 children, or 3, let's say 3, because it ups the numbers. And 2 are great. 2 don't have problems. They're just, they're functioning, they're humming along, and they're doing awesome. And there's one that, let's say, can't make eye contact, can't speak, is stimming, just really, really struggling, and maybe diagnosed with something, maybe not, but there's something going on. And I test all 3 kids, right? One of them has high heavy metals, the other 2 don't. Or let's say one of them has high yeast and the other 2 don't. Or let's say one of them has high, trying to think of something else, some high bacteria, or one has parasites and the other 2 don't. It doesn't matter what opportunistic thing you're looking at. The point is, all 3 kids were raised in the same environment. They eat similar foods. They have similar microbiomes. They're just very much related and exposed to the same things. And let's say all 3 have been vaccinated, right? So they've all been exposed to really the same site of patterns, and they live in the same home, and they live in the same environment. But one of them isn't doing well, right? Their health is really suffering. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why is this one child so different from the other 2? And so when you do the testings, why does this one child have high heavy metals, but the other 2 are clearing them? And this is the point I'm trying to make. What I see over and over and over again is those other 2 children that are doing fine, the body is handling it. The body is doing what it should do. Okay, maybe the gut wall is working properly. Maybe the body is absorbing the nutrients correctly. Maybe the systems are getting all the things that they need, so the systems are working properly. Maybe the immune system is really strong, right? Maybe something didn't, go wrong, right? Maybe something isn't, and I know you're not going to like the word broken, but I always use the term broken as in the chemistry equations in the body. Like maybe the enzymes are all there, the nutrients are all there. So you have to look at the 3 kids, and you have to say, why is that one not, what's going on there? And this is what I want to stress home on this part of the series, is that opportunistic things, or what some people say co-infections, the body should be able to handle heavy metals. We're exposed to heavy metals all the time, right? We're exposed to parasites. I know this is gross, but we are. We're exposed to bacterias. We have yeast within us. We have E. coli in us. We have the family of the microbial commensal organisms of, E. coli. We have the commensal organisms and species of Streptococcus. We have the commensal species of staph. We have so many of these things already living, coexisting with us within our microbiome, within our bodies. We're exposed to metals every single day. They're coming and they're going, right? Even parasites. So then you get this argument in functional medicine where I've seen like the debates go back and forth, and they're just like, no, it's not a parasite problem because they're already in you, or it's not this because it's already in you, and it's not real, it's the body's way of reacting to something. Look, this is how I see it, that some of these people push detoxification so hard, and they want you to believe that like you've caught this thing from the outside and now you need to get rid of it. And it's kind of like thinking medicine wise. Now that is true in some cases. Yeah, some things you do catch from the outside, but a lot of this you've got to look from within, and you really have to look at, is the liver detoxifying? Is the gut detoxifying? Why would this one child have some of these opportunistic things overgrown? Why is there an excess of heavy metals? Why is there too much aluminum? And why isn't the body eliminating it? Why is his two brothers, why are they eliminating it and he is not? Do you understand? That's the things that I do. I dive deeper with the mom, and we look, what's going on here. So when you hear like, oh, it's, the child might have problems with anger or the ability to focus or speak because of heavy metals, that's not wrong. And then you go, oh, I have to remove heavy metals from my kids. That's not wrong thinking either. But first, I want to say two things. One is you should definitely make sure the liver and the gut are working properly before you move these things. Two, you better do it correctly, right? And three, do they really have that? I guess I said two things, but now it's three. So you got a bonus. The third thing is, did you test for it? And this is where a lot of the big mistakes come, because the testing, yes, it could get pricey and it can get difficult and it can get frustrating. So sometimes you might be like, you know what? I'm not going to do the testing. I'm just going to do a heavy metal detoxification in case they have it. You can do that for sure. I'm not against that, but you have to do it correctly. And stage 1 needs to be done. You have to make sure that gut and that liver is working properly, and that your detoxification system is good. The detoxification system needs these micronutrients. So if you don't have glutathione, you don't have methionine, you don't have your B vitamins, you don't have, there's more, and I'm not, there's more to that. And I definitely have podcasts on this that's very specific to what you need for the liver detoxification. But if you don't have that all set up and play, and then you went in and removed it, it might not work. It might not go well. Your child might get worse. You might see a regression where all these things come up. And then you're going to get into these Facebook groups and try to, get answers. So I just want this podcast to really help guide you. I'm not trying to say you're doing anything wrong or you're not coming from love, because you are. But I want you to give you some answers of why or how to really understand what's going on here. So if we unpack this on stage 2, when you're opportunistic things, I call them that because they're opportunistic. Some of them are in the siblings. And I'm using this story as siblings so you understand all 3 are living in the same environment. All 3 just have different bodies. So 2 of them, their gut wall might be working properly. They might getting all the nutrients they have. The detoxification systems have everything it needs. So their body is exposed to the same metals as the sibling, their brothers, but their body is eliminating them properly. Their body is breaking them down. Their body's not allowing the metals to be in excess. That's the point. You can have 2 children, and one child the body's doing it all in a healthy, correct manner. They're functioning properly, and the other one is not, and they're getting exposed to the same thing. So when I say opportunistic, I'm trying to have you guys understand that some of them take advantage of the opportunity. They just start taking over. So what these things are an excess of something that is just kind of getting out of balance. And that's when the body gets sick, when there's an imbalance in these things. So I don't want you to think of it as I caught something from the outside, I need to make sure I treat it with something that's not pharmaceutical, right? Because that's, you don't want to take the same thinking of pharmacy into functional medicine, where I'm just going to treat, and not say to yourself, why is this body not handling the heavy metals correctly? What's going on? Why isn't the liver clearing this? Why isn't the gut clearing this? Do you get my gist on this? So other opportunistic things that we do see, and this isn't just about children. Again, this could be, I'm a chiropractor, so we see a lot with joints, right? So you could have, I have people that come in and are like, oh, I have rheumatoid arthritis, or I have, arthritis. And I'm like, okay. And then right away, I'm like, your gut's probably not working properly. I'm pretty sure, because when we have a really healthy gut, I have taken people from RA into making it very quiet. And this is what I mean about opportunistic and not really calling it too much of a co-infection. You can have something, but if it's quiet, if it's shut off, if it's not a problem, you will have health. So I'm going to use RA as an example. I know Lyme's is another one, because these are things that attack the joints, right? These are things that attack connective tissue. These are things that attack, and they're autoimmune, right? Thyroid's another one, Hashimoto's and things like that. Think this way. Now I'm going to go in this direction. And then I'm going to move into part 3, which is a little bit of this. So if you have something like rheumatoid arthritis, and I've had this in many patients, and they're in so much pain, so they're on the medications, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if they come to me and they go, you know what, I don't feel better, there's something wrong, I want to take a healthy approach, like, is there something I can do? So we go right to stage 1 and we work on the gut. And we get in there and we focus on getting that gut to work, to get rid of the bad stuff, to get the inflammation down, to get the toxic overload down, to get these things, these opportunistic things that are just accumulating, and get the body to get rid of it. So that's what we do in stage 1. That's what all the leaky gut is all about. And that's patients right there. And then I do get the detoxification system to work properly. So I'm really, with my program, I do stage 1 and stage 2. If I have somebody with RA, it goes quiet, and they go back to their doctor. So many of them go back to their doctor, and their doctor's like, oh my gosh, the numbers are gone down. Oh my gosh, this is great. And they start lowering their medication, and they're like, what are you doing? And she might say, I did a food sensitivity test, and I can't have dairy, or I can't have wheat, or I can't have bananas, or it's all the nuts I'm eating. And then I started repairing my gut, and my gut wall's working properly, and I didn't realize I had parasites, or sometimes people don't have any of these opportunistic things. I test for all of them, and they don't have any of them. I have a person right now that is coming in my practice, is so inflamed that she either has Cushing's or she has Hashimoto's. Like, her face is round, her neck's round, she's inflamed everywhere. And they tested for they're going to call it co-infections, but they did mold, they did Lyme's, they did every autoimmune panel, they ran it. I ran heavy metals, I ran the gut microbiome. She didn't have parasites, she had nothing. So for her, it's not an opportunistic thing. For her, it's going to be something else. So guess where she needs to start? She needs to start on stage 1, because for some reason, there's something toxic in that gut, and that gut wall's not working properly, and some bad things are leaking out. And she needs to start with food sensitivities. And then she needs to move to, we know there's no opportunistic things there because we looked, we tested, and the medical world tested. So we put the 2 tests together, and we beautifully are like, okay, that's not there. But she also needs to get the gut microbiome healthy and clean up her diet. And for her, she has a crisis going on in her life. So a lot of it's turning out to be the stage 3, what I'm going to talk about in the next podcast, which is supporting her systems and repairing any dysfunction or imbalance thing going on in the systems of the body. So for her, we have to look at her endocrine system, because in her thyroid and her hormones and her ovaries, and we're like, where is this coming from? Cushing's could be adrenals, right? Hashimoto's could be thyroid. And I will, in stage 3, tell you what we found for her. But this is stage 3. And you got to go the distance. If we, it is a 3-stage thing. So I will meet you there. And I want to thank you for listening to this. Just remember, this is not to treat or cure. anything. It's for educational, informational purposes, and it's not meant to replace your medical care either. Okay, see you in part 3.